Today in Draw My Life, the true origin of Olaf. A long time ago, when magic didn't exist, in a village in Denmark, a child named Olaf was born. It was no easy labor. The child went without oxygen for a few seconds, and that affected his later development. Olaf was the youngest of 8 siblings, but he was very loved by his family. In the village, winter lasted 9 months, so they longed for the arrival of spring. However, that year, the flowers were not going to bloom again. One afternoon on Friday, a woman came to the village selling animal skins to protect them from the cold. She was a very nice lady, going from village to village and living under the roof of the villagers. This time, it was Olaf's parents who invited her to spend the night in the humble abode. In gratitude, the woman told the story of the Snow Queen to the children before they went to bed. The children were delighted and fell asleep, thinking how brave the main characters were and how wicked the Snow Queen was. And as if the Snow Queen herself had passed by the house, the next day, tragedy reigned in their home. One of their children, the 4th, had been drowned, and little Olaf's bed was empty. The kind woman had vanished like a snowflake. She had left a trail of bloodstains. Olaf's parents and their neighbors wanted to follow her, but the snow had soon covered the traces. The woman, named Elsa, had stolen a reindeer and a sled. She drove it with a big smile, while on the side, Olaf huddled, bleeding to death. He had never felt so much pain in his life. Would this be his end? However, this was nothing compared to what was to come. Between the cold and the head wounds, Olaf was numb, unconscious. Later, Olaf woke up in an ice cave. His whole body hurt. When he wanted to move, he couldn't. Olaf was entirely stiff. He couldn't feel his feet. But the worst part came when he looked at his little hands. He was missing a finger, and the rest were completely purple. At that moment, footsteps approached. Olaf looked up and saw that Elsa was wearing some kind of ice crown on her head. She began to speak. "Welcome to my museum," she pointed around him. There, Olaf looked around for the first time and saw thousands of frozen children's figures all around him. Apart from the stalicities hanging from the ceiling, there were frozen limbs and fingers. Olaf wanted to scream, but all that came out of his mouth was mist. When Elsa saw him, she burst out in laughter. She began to explain that she's been working for years in her entourage to become the real Snow Queen. Olaf did not understand anything, but was terrified. Shivering, he said, "I'm so cold." Elsa looked at him with contempt. He sighed and left the room. After a while, she returned with a pot of hot water. However, she poured it over Olaf, not only melting some of the ice that was holding him, but also making him scream in pain due to the shock of extreme temperature. The little boy began to smoke through his skin, and then that smoke turned into bleeding sores. She rebuked him by ordering him to stop crying. He was screaming for his mother. Elsa told him not to worry about his family because she was going to send them a little gift so he would never forget the little boy. At that moment, she took out a pair of scissors, brought them close to his nose, and slowly cut the cartilage. Blood began to flow out, and Olaf fainted. After a while, Olaf woke up. His head hurt all over. As best he could, he brought his icy hands up to his nose, only to find that his nose had been exchanged for a carrot? "Good morning, baby doll. I've decided I'm not going to turn you into an ice figure. I'm going to make a snowman out of you." "Don't look at me like that, little guy. There's nothing better than being a snowman. Everyone wants to play with you. Well, until spring comes. But shh, I won't let anything happen to you." "Well, enough of that. You know what's coming now, don't you?" Olaf tried to move to escape from his cruel fate, but he couldn't. Elsa grabbed some ice stalicities, brought them close to his arms, and began stabbing him, first tearing his skin and then piercing his bone. Blood spattered on his face. Olaf died instantly, but his soul got transferred to the snowman, which effectively never melted due to the caring of Elsa, the bloody Ice Queen. She continued kidnapping children and was never caught. Years after her death, some hikers had to take shelter from a blizzard, enter the cave, and discover all the frozen bodies. This story passed on from one generation to the next. Does it sound familiar to you? Maybe it does, doesn't it? Leave us in the comments which other character you would like us to talk about. See you in the next one!